Ooh, it's really early this Sunday morning, and today I'm in the National Trust High Peak Estate. I'm going to be climbing up Bleaklow, which is just ahead of me. Just parked on the A57 Snake Pass, and I'm just following the Pennine Way, which I've done so many times, up to Bleaklow. It's been a few weeks since I've been out walking, really, so we'll see what it's like underfoot. It seems to be pretty dry. We had a nice day yesterday, so I'm hoping when it starts heading up into more mid-morning it's going to brighten up for us. So if you're wondering where this is between Sheffield and Glossop and A57, the Snake Pass. It's called a snake not because it's so windy, which it is, but it's after a coat of arms which had snakes on them, so Snake Pass. As you can see, the peat tends to make channels for itself, so when you get down these dips you can't really see much of anything. There'll be some better examples further up the hill, but they're called groughs, and from a navigational point of view it's terrible. And Bleaklow on top is just full of groughs, so if you get up there and it's bad weather, right, it's this completely, flat plateau just covered in all these groughs. You just often can't tell where you are. That's why it can be such a challenge to navigate sometimes. Now I've risen out again, I can just start to see higher shelf stones again, whereas the top of Bleaklow is way up there. We won't be able to really see the summit until we're on it because it's so flat. So there's no point to head to. I just quite enjoy being out in all this dark peat. Right now I'm in the Peak District National Park, and it's generally split up into two different areas. The White Peak, which is, or maybe the limestone to the south, and the Dark Peak, which is this area. It's got this moorland and dark peat. It's got features like Black Hill and Bleaklow and Kinder Scout in it. Okay, I've dipped down into the groughs again. See how sandy it is under my feet. It's kind of strange. See all these layers and layers of peat. Take a long, long time to build up. How easy it is to get lost already. It's all twisting and turning little pathways through here. Luckily this one is a very well marked out trail. It's actually a national trail, Pennine Way. I like these little tufts on top. There's a nice little stream. I've drank from the stream, but when I show you the colour, you'll think, ugh, how can anyone have done that? actually not looking too bad. Quite often it's quite orange because of all the iron coming out of the hills, but it's still good. I've turned off the Pen Highway now. I'm not going to tell you exactly where. I'm going to keep that a little bit of a secret. I'll show you why I don't want to make the path too obvious in a little while. I've made it up now, and I'm where I want to be, and there's no one else here. And when I said I wanted to keep the route slightly private, I'll show you why. I don't want to keep it hidden because it's the world's worst kept secret, but it'd be nice if people had to put a bit of thought into it before they managed to get here. So, in the Peak District in Derbyshire, there are at least 50 plane crashes, and here's one of them. So these are poppies, so it says in remembrance, because in Britain at least, poppies are used to signify those lost in armed conflicts and in the military, taken from the fields of France and Belgium, where after World War I all the poppies sprouted. So people have put these here as a mark of respect, because this is a military plane, and to be exact, it's the United States Air Force plane. Okay, I'll just read this memorial plaque quickly. In memory. Here lies the wreckage of B-29 Superfortress, overexposed, of the 16th Photographic Reconnaissance Squadron, United States Air Force, which tragically crashed while descending through cloud on 3rd of November 1948, killing all 13 crew members. The aircraft was on a routine flight from RAF Scrampton to American Air Force Base Burtonwood. It is doubtful the crew ever saw the ground. Memorial laid by 367 Air Navigation Course of RAF Finningley on 12th November 1988. So 1948, and people still come out and put remembrance poppies out. Now those poppies will have been there since November. The 11th day of the 11th month is Remembrance Day in the United Kingdom and I believe the Commonwealth. And there's little wooden crosses. Here's the wooden crosses, a little American flag. So, all this large wreckage. So, the theory is that it was horrible and cloudy and drizzly up here, which it usually is. And the pilot was advised that the cloud was between 4,000 and 2,000 foot. So he descended to 2,000 foot, but that's the height of high shelf stones, which is here. So we're right on the edge of this little plateau, and unfortunately in the cloud they didn't see it, and they were crashed and most likely died on impact. There were no survivors. When the aircraft didn't get to the American Air Force Base, you know, they alerted that there's a possible crash, and there's some members of the RAF Harp Hill Mountain Rescue Team about 2 miles away, and they got here, split into two parties. They got here in drizzle and horrible weather, and they confirmed there was no survivors. And the next morning people came out and they managed to recover all the bodies. It was carrying £7,000 in wages, and they managed to recover that satchel as well. It's a tragic loss of life. Yeah, so the crew of this wreckage, the Overexpose, had completed their tour, and 3 days they were going to return home to the US. So they were just dropping mail off in Air Force bases, and they were carrying mail to return stateside, and they were carrying all the wages. So they were heading home. The captain, he was 33 years old, and he joined the United States Air Force in 1936, Captain Tanner, and he left a wife and 2 daughters. And his wedding ring was lost for years until someone found it, and they managed to track his daughter down. This was way before the internet, so this is quite a remarkable feat. They managed to track his daughter down and return the wedding ring of her father. So this wreckage was 200 yards in total. So people will have scavenged bits. And what people would do would they'd climb up here and go, well, we'll take some wreckage, and then realise that up on Bleaklow it's peat, it's soggy, and they don't get very far, so they'll leave it somewhere. And that's what happened to one of the turrets, the cover dome for the turrets. Someone tried to move it, only got as far as the stream bed, and left it there, and then the peat will have covered it. And then, I think it was 2002, it was finally uncovered. They went looking for it. They thought they knew where it was, and they found it, and it got turned to the Glossop Heritage Centre, and it was displayed there for a little while, and then it was taken. It's on display in Newark, I believe now. And the daughter of Captain Tanner, she has visited here before. She visited in 2008, I know. She was only, I think, 4 years old or so when this happened, so she never knew her father. So this is still a memorial that people come and visit, so if you want to come out here, please respect that. So this is a B-29 Super Fortress, but it was fitted with special cameras, making it an F-13. And they could take photographs of a 3-mile section of ground. This plane, the Overexpose, was built in Renton, Washington, and it entered service just before the end of World War II. So in 1946 it was then converted to an F-13 with the special cameras. So its tail section will have had an F put on it. Now the tail section was here, but too many people could see it, too many people coming up, so it was removed. So this plane was put into a special unit who were looking at the effects of atomic bombs. This was called Operation Crossroads. And they were based in the Marshall Islands, and they'd have warships, well, decommissioned warships lined up in Bikini Atoll, and a bomb would be dropped, and this plane would be taking photographs of the B-29 carrying the bomb. They'd see it drop, and then this plane would get the hell out of the area. You know, they'd dive out of the way and be maybe 7 miles away or so when the bomb went off, taking photos the entire time. This one was used in what was called Test Able, where Dave's Dream dropped a bomb on Bikini Atoll Lagoon, and they were exposed, took photographs of that. You can actually find the photographs online. I've looked, and it's pretty amazing. You can see the bomb doors open on the other B-29, ready to drop its cargo. So that's what it did during the atomic tests. And then after its contamination checks, there's a modern aircraft, noisy thing. Gone up in the cloud now. They returned to the squadrons after the decontamination. Well, not decontamination, you know, contamination checks. If it was contaminated with radiation, it'd be taken straight out of service. But then in 1948, the Russians cut off Berlin. You know, the famous heating up of the Cold War, and this plane was used to take photographs and things like that during the Berlin airlift. And it would take photographs of the Russian-occupied area of Germany. And I'll just read you the names of the 13 people who died, if that's okay. So, pilots: Captain Landon P. Tanner, Captain Harry Shroud, Technical Sergeant Ralph Fields, Sergeant Charles Wilbanks, Sergeant Gene A. Gartner, Sergeant David T. Moore, Technical Sergeant Saul R. Banks, Sergeant Donald R. Abergast, Sergeant Robert I. Doyle, Private First Class William M. Burrows, Corporal M. Franson, Corporal George Ingram, and Photographic Advisor Captain Howard Keel of the 4201st Motion Picture Unit. And the 13 people who lost their lives in this. So this is why the overexposed crashed. I'm just on the edge now, next to the trig point, and as you can see, it rises quite sharply up into these rocks. And when Captain Tanner lowered the plane to get bearings and try and work out where they were, sadly they crashed, and the wreckage is just down there. So here's higher short stones. There, it's focused. My lunch up on Bleaklow Head, and I'm going to head back down now. The Panorama Way continues that way down to Torside and over Black Hill. Just come watching my second Panorama Way video. quite fortunate to live so close to places like this. It's really cool. See the owl? What's he doing out at this time? What can he see? Well, I'm back at the tiny stream again, so it's time I get my head a bit wet like I usually do. Cold. Oh, that's actually quite refreshing now. Yeah, I love doing that. So yeah, it's a nice view of the Peak District National Park. Well, part of it. As you can see, there's not really many peaks in the Peak District. All the hills are flat and glaciated around, or plateaus. It's still beautiful.